Salute to you all. The brave never fall. What does it mean to play the game? Jocko Willink talks about this all the time. It's about playing the game. It's about showing who you are each and every moment, but going along with what you have to go along with in order to get the outcomes that you feel are inevitable in your life. That doesn't necessarily mean at every point in time throughout the day, through every relationship, through every conversation, you're going to be telling the 100% God honest truth about who you are, what you've done, where you've been, where you want to go. We all do this. We know the difference between a lie and a white lie. If somebody says, hey, he lied to me or she lied to me, versus they told me a white lie, we know what that means. But what does that mean? A lie is a lie. Honesty is honesty. Being brutally honest to someone is one of the most painful things we could go through when someone's telling us about the brutal honesties about ourselves. And we know how brutal it can be and how hard it can be to say that to someone else. But the real question is, does it even matter if the message is coming from someone who's been disingenuous about themselves in the first place? What does it mean to have a relationship with someone when all you're going to get is feedback from somebody who you don't even respect? Gonna have to apologize up front. Testing out a new microphone, new computer, new setup for these podcasts. So until I get everything set up, it's going to sound a little wonky, but try to stay with the message and not so much with the audio. I apologize. But the beauty and the beast of honesty in relationships is something that I have been thinking about a lot lately. Because it's that fine line between who we are, where we want to go, where we've been, but really we have to concentrate on who we are now. And what are we telling people? Are we telling people the version of us that we want to get to? Are we saying, hey, I'm virtuous, I have this trait, I have that trait, when really we haven't really dug in enough to actually make that trait a part of us to the point where it's discipline? And that is the difference. If you look at an athlete, you're either an athlete or you're not. You're either training for an event, an outcome, or you're not. You're either losing weight to reach a goal or you're not. But we tell ourselves white lies, and we start with ourselves because we'll branch off and talk about how our lies affect other people. But a lie is a lie. And you're lying to yourself when you set a goal that you know you're really not going to, as far as discipline goes, put in all the effort required to meet that goal in a reasonable amount of time. But that's unnecessary pressure we put on ourselves. So we give ourselves an excuse. We say, well, had I known this, had I known that. Fact of the matter is, in that moment when you made that goal, when you set it in your mind you were going to reach that goal, you knew then that those obstacles were going to be there, but it didn't matter then because you were motivated. Motivation, I have learned, when I first started the Brave Never Fall, I was motivated by a lot of people and things. In some of my earliest podcasts, I'll talk about motivation. I do think motivation is very important. But motivation has a shelf life. Motivation does not hand the baton off to discipline. And these are where the lies come in. The beauty and beast of honesty. Let's start with ourselves. If you reach a goal that you set for yourself in a reasonable amount of time, maybe you even exceed your goal, you don't feel like you lied to yourself. You don't feel like you lied to the people that you told, hey, I'm going to reach this goal. You don't feel like you lied to yourself. You feel like you had every opportunity at every moment, day and night, to do something that leans towards that goal. And if you're not doing that, if you know you're not doing that, are you lying to yourself about what that goal was to begin with? Did you initially say, hey, I'm going to reach this goal because I want to, because I have to? I'm talking about individual things because these things spill over into relationships. Big time. Big time. I was out with my friend today, and we were talking about goals, and we were talking about how past events lead not only to future events for ourselves, but they seem to always affect other people. Now, how do we know this? It's very simple. Because we have been affected by people who have not reached their goals. And based on how they've felt and what lies they've told themselves about who they could have been in life, we are affected by them. Yes, I'm talking about our parents. I'm talking about our grandparents. I'm talking about our friends, our co-workers, our churchgoers. All the people who affect our lives, our teachers, our principals, even our law enforcement, anybody who has had an impact in your life in any way, shape, or form. We are all products of all of these lives combined that equaled us in this moment right now. Enter stage left, somebody who is very close to you. This person has had the same experiences. Now you may say, what do you mean the same exact experiences? This person grew up in a different tax bracket. This person grew up in a loving home. This person, this. All of that shit are excuses for why you feel that this person should be in a different place, but they aren't. And why you should be in a different place, and you aren't. Or maybe you are here because you overcame something that this person did not. Is that fair? No, because if you had have grown up in that person's life, you'd be doing exactly what they're doing. There's a movie called Star Trek Nemesis. I'm a Star Trek fan. I talk about Star Trek sometimes too much. But in relationships, as far as relationships go, Star Trek has always had a big emphasis on not only the space battles and the exploration and all that stuff, but the interpersonal relationships of the crew on board the Enterprise. And in Star Trek The Next Generation, their last film, Nemesis, you had Tom Hardy play a young Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard. And this clone of, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling it. The clone of Jean-Luc Picard is played by Tom Hardy, and he has a scene with Jean-Luc later in the film because the young Jean-Luc is the villain in the film. It's called Shinzon. And they have a conversation, and Jean-Luc says, why are you doing the things you're doing? And I don't want to spoil the film, but Shinzon is doing a lot of very crazy things in order to get back at this person. And he resents Picard, the original Picard, the old Picard, because Picard wasn't a clone. He had his choices. He had control of his life. He could do this and this, and he's good, and people respect him. And he's this captain of this starship, and he's just legend in Starfleet. And Shinzon is raised by these Remans, these aliens, on a mining planet, and he just feels they didn't have a fair shake. He didn't have a fair shake, like the person he was cloned from. And Shinzon says to him, if you were in my position, Jean-Luc, you would be doing the exact same thing I'm doing now. The only thing that separates us is the truth of who we are, which is basically you had your life path that had certain things laid out in front of you that you took advantage of. I didn't have those things, but if the roles were reversed, yes, I would be good, but you will also be bad. So if the roles were reversed, I would be this legend Starfleet captain and space explorer and a person that is gonna move up and become admiral. And he said, Jean-Luc, but if you were in my position, had you followed the breadcrumbs that were laid in front of me, you would also be a villain. You would be doing exactly what I'm doing now. So look in the mirror, see your reflection. We can do this for ourselves every day. And like I said, I was talking to my friend and I was telling him, one of the craziest things that I realized about life was that when you look in the mirror and you start to take accountability for who you are, the first thing you will notice is that you make way too much excuses. That's what I told myself. You have made so many excuses for yourself that you are a shell of what you could be and should be. Because all those excuses weren't valid enough for you to become who you are and despise. And this spills over again into our relationships. Therefore, I can't be the husband I need to be. I can't be the friend I need to be, the family member I need to be, the churchgoer I need to be, the spiritual person I need to be. I can't be any of these things because I've just completely have made myself a suit of armor made out of excuses and lies about who I am. So how can I possibly attract anybody other than exactly who I am? Think about that. How can I attract anyone that is opposite of me if I just keep on making excuses for myself and what I am and where I should be and how unfair it is? Just because other people have had better opportunities does not mean I don't have the opportunity to make whatever outcomes I want for myself, therefore spilling over into the relationships that I want. I cannot blame myself for being surrounded with bad relationships. I can only blame myself. I am the common denominator. We all know what it feels like to have someone tell us, hey, you aren't who you think you are. You will never go where you think you're going to go. You will never be who you think you will be. And we all know what it feels like to tell someone these things. But the thing is that in relationships, and like I said, in relationships, who we are and who we identify with directly influence the type of people we attract in our lives. And again, I was talking to my buddy about this today. I'm only in a position to have the type of relationships in my life if I'm able to even understand what type of relationships I want. How can I understand what type of relationships I want if I don't even understand who the hell I am? Now, some people will say, well, isn't that part of the journey is that unexpected guests will show up and show you at the right time? That is 100% true. But does that 100% happen every single time when someone wants to make a turn on their path? I'm not so sure that does happen the way that we think that it should. And I don't think that in every relationship we know exactly what we want just because this person is who we want them to be in that moment. And this is where lust and love separate. Because if we're in a desperate position to be in relationships of any way, shape, or form, when you get desperate, you start doing things that are out of character. You start doing things that go against everything that you know you would do normally if you weren't in that situation, if you didn't feel desperate. When you start feeling impatient, when you start feeling like you deserve more, these are dangerous, dangerous places to be at. In any relationship stage is when you go into a relationship feeling desperate, feeling like you deserve more, feeling like you deserve less. It's not the time to start looking at the person in front of you, around you, behind you. It's time to start looking at the person in that fucking mirror. That mirror and that person in it is the relationship. It is the number one relationship. I will harp self-love until it blows up in my face like a grenade. You cannot love anyone until you love yourself fully. Let me say that again, fully. It is possible to love. It is possible to care. It is possible to be in relationships with people and develop them and grow them when you are now whole. But just think about how much better it would be if you began those relationships whole. We find ourselves in relationships and we grow in them, and sometimes we have to separate. I know I have. Jettison people from my life didn't necessarily mean that I did not like the person. I didn't like the relationship. Let me say that again. You can jettison someone from your life, not because you don't like them, but because you don't like the dynamics of the relationship. Because relationships are supposed to bring you value. What is the point of going to a job? You go to a job to earn something. You go to a job to obtain something that's going to make your life better, to bring value to your life, to your family members. Why don't we judge our relationships on the same basis? How long are you going to stay at a bad job that's making you miserable? Most people are going to do it until they can tolerate it no more, and they're going to move on. They're going to jettison the job. We don't do that with people because we value them as people. So it is inherently, it is harder to jettison someone, far, far harder to jettison someone than a job or some place or something, because these are people that we can interact with. We understand it more. We can identify with, right? Which is why if you took a chimpanzee and put it in a cage, and you put a praying mantis and put it in the cage, and you left them in the same conditions for 2 weeks, didn't feed them, didn't give them any water, which one would you empathize and sympathize with most? The chimpanzee. Why? Familiar face. Which is why we don't view material things as we do, the same as we do people. We don't view places. Now, you can have an emotional attachment to it, but when it comes down to it, your relationship with a place is completely different than your relationship with a person. Your relationship with a thing is completely different than your relationship with a person. That does not mean that those things do not become compulsive. People do get obsessed with places and things. Those are called addictions. We know all about these things. Mental health is a big cause of concern here. That is another important part. That's just why I say, as we get into this a little deeper with the beauty and the beast of honesty in relationships, is that's where that complete honesty starts to come into play, and all the different factors start to come into play. Because when you start talking about all of the different little things that you could leave out of telling someone, does it make it right? Is it okay to tell someone that you have in the past taken prescription drugs because you had a mental health issue that may have spanned for decades? I know for me, I was depressed. I was in a deep depression for a very long time, and I think it would be disingenuous for me to start any relationship without telling someone that I went through a deep depression. I got out of it on my own, thank goodness, without any serious repercussions, because I know a lot of people who could not do that. And it's not about strength or anything like that. It's about, what do you want from life? And some people just didn't have the hope that I had. And the motivation, again, I'm not saying motivation is a bad thing, but motivation can get you over the hump in a lot of situations. The question is, do you tell someone upon first meeting them who you really are and the darkest places you've been in your life? Not just the brightest. Because that's the reason why infatuation starts to go into overdrive in those first couple of weeks of meeting someone new. Let's just talk about a physical relationship, or I would say a romantic relationship, I should say. In the first couple of weeks, that lust phase is insane, because you're hearing the best and the brightest about this person. You're not hearing all the dark corners of where they've been. You will eventually hear it, but I always say this: what is your outcome for a relationship to begin with? We all know why we're seeking a relationship. So what are you looking for when you first meet someone? Are you looking just to date? Are you looking for a long-term relationship? You're looking for marriage? Whatever that thing is, if they haven't done it by the second date, if you don't see it, why do you continue to go on the date with this person? If you're marriage-minded and you say, hey, I want to be married in the next couple of years, don't you think that's a conversation you should be having early on? Or should you wait 6 months and find out this person is not marriage-minded at all? Being in a relationship is not about avoiding the beast of honesty. What I'll call the beast of honesty in a relationship is, or even any relationship, I should say, it's a relationship you have with yourself. The beast of honesty is that you are brutally honest about yourself, and there's nothing you're going to do to ignore those things that you come up with about yourself that you need to change. When you dig down deep and you find out all the things about yourself that you need to change, what can you do to change it? What can you honestly do to change it? And I think that the biggest thing you can change about yourself is the understanding of, hey, my dark corners of my past are my dark corners of my past. The things that I want to do in my life have nothing to do with the relationships that I cultivate, other than the brutal honesty and acceptance from the other person that they're going to be giving me the same as well. The beauty of honesty is that you're going to get the same from the other person. That person is going to give you a beautiful, honest assessment of who they are. And I say assessment because we're always assessing who we are. You ever think about a memory that you've had back when you were younger and how different in context that memory is the older you get? It just starts to take on its own different context of, wow, that memory was brutal back then, but I can handle it a lot better now because I've worked on certain areas of my life. I'm not as weak in certain areas, so that memory doesn't hold as much weight. That relationship that I had is different now. I don't have to feel as if I'm the person that was the catalyst for it ending because I've worked on this and this and this. Even though I can't go back and change anything, I know what I would have done if I had known better. These are things that in relationships, when you're being brutally honest with yourself, that carry weight and they move over to the positive side of any relationship that we have with other people, especially in romantic relationships. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know if you want to be married in 2 years. If that's what you want, then you should only be dating people who want to be married in 2 years. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that, hey, look, I'm just out for sex. But damn it, if that's all you want, then say it. Don't waste other people's time. Don't waste your time. The sad part about it is that society, we are so multifaceted now. And it's accepted to be able to do multiple things and so many different things now that being honest about who we are when it comes to romantic relationships, and we're going to dive into that first because it's connections of life, but it's also connections of love. The connections we have in life and what we do, when we're brutally honest, if you tell an employer, hey, I can take this job, but I really can't do a couple of things that's on this job description. If all your other areas are great, you think their employer is not going to employ you? I can guarantee you that they will. Because I do it all the time. There's plenty, every job that I've gotten, I've had to say to them, hey, listen, I'm not that skilled in this area, but I can build that skill up if you get me on. All the other areas are checked off. They're solid. They believe me. Why? Because I told the truth. I didn't say I could do everything about the job. I said there's a couple areas here that I cannot do. Which is more believable? A guy that comes into a job interview and says I can do every damn thing on the description, or a guy that says I can do 80% of it. The other 20% I'll learn on the job, and once I learn it, I'll be better than most of the people here. Which one will you hire? You may say, well, how do you know? Ding, 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 ding. I want the guy who says he doesn't know already. I want the girl who says she doesn't know already. And the reason why is because I have an opportunity for this person to learn something and experience something they haven't experienced before, and they can grow in it without expectations. The person who thinks they know everything, what are you going to teach that person? The moment they fail at something, you're going to have a conversation. I thought you knew how to do this. Well, I did, but here come the excuses. There are no excuses if you said up front, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to learn. What's the difference in relationships when it comes to that? If you're in a relationship and you say, hey, I'm great in relationships when it comes to loving and caring and this and that, but in this area, I fucking suck. And you're going to and you say up front, hey, I'm really not good in this area, but I know it's an area that I need to get better at, and I want to get better at it, and I know I can, but it might take the right situation, the right person for me to do it at. And the person you're talking to may appreciate that far more than you believe, because you're being honest about a flaw. And if that person has been honest, they have flaws that they need to be honest about as well. This is where a good rotation of honesty can start communication early on with somebody that you're meeting in a romantic relationship, when you're building with friends or coworkers. That's where that comes in. It's called vulnerability. Excuse me. I couldn't. That word came out like a freaking train that ran out of gas. Vulnerability. When you're being vulnerable and you're being not overconfident, but you're confident enough to say, "Hey, I'm vulnerable in this area," then people can identify with that. They will cling to that because that is something that's brutally and beautifully honest. But it's a beast of honesty because you're being raw about who you are. You're not sugarcoating it. You're not saying you're the best at anything. You're not saying you ever will be the best at anything. You're saying, I am who I am. At this point in my life, that should be all that I need to be. But let's look at the alternative. You can also go in these situations and you can lie your ass off. You can say you're better than who you are. You're better. This is not beauty. This is not beast. This is just flat out black hole of lies. It's a black hole of lies. The beauty and the beast of honesty in relationships, in any relationships, comes from the fact that you don't have a black hole of lies. Is that you are telling beautiful truths about yourself. And the beast areas of your truths, you're willing to tell those too. Those are those dark corners. Those are the ones in that black hole that you're willing to say, if I can grab them out and share them, I will. I'm just not going to allow them to just get sucked away. If only everybody thought like this. But they don't. And this is where people who are in relationships where they want the other person to say and do things that they are not willing to do, this is why these relationships crumble. It's the honesty aspect, and it's not about what kind of food you want for dinner. When you say to someone, hey, I want tacos for dinner, the other person says, I want burgers. And you say, okay, burgers sounds good, but deep down inside you still want tacos. Was that a lie? I loved that movie we went to last night. You hated that fucking movie. Is that a lie? Or do you, or is it? But I think this is the part of the issue, is that where do we blur the line between lying to ourselves about who we are, but also saying, you know what, I care about this person so much, I value this relationship so much that I'm not going to be completely honest about them because I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to be the beast of honesty for this person. There's where we're getting at. I don't want to be the beast of honesty for this person, so I'm going to sugarcoat it. I like that movie. But then that does bleed over. Oh, of course you did a great job. Sure, you should quit your job. Oh, no, you don't have to add more hours at work. You look beautiful. I'm still attracted to you. And that builds up and it builds up, and over time you realize a lot of that stuff is not true for you. And those are beasts of honesty, because you're kind of honest, but you're not really. And these are the things that go beyond white lies, because these are not white lies. These are things that can be very hurtful, because that person needs to know the truth. That person needs to know the truth. Yes, it's a beast of honesty, but they need to know the truth. You didn't like the movie. You don't want hamburgers. You don't think he or she looks good in that particular outfit anymore. You're not attracted. You're not in love. Have to be brutally honest with not only ourselves, but with other people. And it's not going to hurt other people for you to be brutally honest with them. You are helping them. Now, we also have to be sensitive about when we do these things. being brutally honest with someone, showing the beast of honesty is, we can tell somebody the good stuff all day. The beauty of honesty, we can say all the time. Oh, this is great. This, and this. It doesn't matter what time of day, night. We all love beautiful, healthy things that are going to build us up. But we have to be super sensitive about what we say and do when it comes to the beasts of honesty. When it's not such a pleasant truth, what do we do then? When is there a good time to hear that shit? Well, I guess we have to kind of think about where we would be at for ourselves. Like right now, all hell's breaking loose upstairs. There's a baby crying, dogs barking, girls going back and forth. My girl and my daughter are going back and forth. I still gotta make this podcast. I still gotta talk like there's nothing going on. The brutal honesty is, upstairs there's a circus going on, but I love that circus, so they're gonna stay here. And again, I apologize for the background noise, but this message has to get out tonight, or otherwise I won't be able to get it out tonight. We have to wait. But all of this really stemmed off of an idea that I had prior to even think about making this podcast. But the timing, as always makes a huge difference, because me having gone out and having a conversation with my buddy, just started filling in the gaps, and you start to realize that who we are, there's always an honesty and a truth that we should have for ourselves. And if that honesty and truth is coming from a place of complete honesty and unbiased truth about who we are, those things that we do outwardly, they're not going to hurt us as much as we think. When you tell somebody, hey, look, I'm going to have to tell you a beast of honest truth about yourselves. Well, we've done the work, and we've dug in, and we've done the work on ourselves, and we've accepted the criticism and the truth and the all of the things that come into people telling you who you are, and you haven't reacted to it in a negative way. People respond to them different. They can look at you and say, you are a person who gets it. You are a person who is practicing what they preach. You do want to be better. You don't mind hearing the criticism because you're putting in the work. There's only always a problem when somebody is going to speak up about a truth to someone when they've been disingenuous about who they are and they cannot take what they want to push off. That's when those beasts of truth and honesty, when you start spitting it to someone else, that's when the drama starts. That's when the chaos starts to kick in. That's when things start to get real, real bad. Because people can tell you're full of shit. They can say, how are you going to talk about somebody else or what they need to work on, when we have all been looking at you and we know you need to work on A, B, and C, and you're just not doing it. In fact, you don't even see it. To tell the truth, you have to accept the truth. We can't tell other people what to do when we don't know what to do for ourselves. So therefore, I have always thought, my job is not to tell other people truths about themselves. It's about me telling the truth about myself. And sometimes we do feel like multiple versions, but I would say myself. When I work on myself, I don't have to tell anybody anything. I'm practicing what I preach. I can walk around and say, you can clearly see what I'm working on. It doesn't always have to be it doesn't have to always be, when it comes to truths, some type of moral battleground over your being. Because when we start, if you dig deeper into this, when you start adding in religion, you start adding in family values and principles and morals and boundaries and mental health, and you start adding in all these dynamics, that's when things start to go awry. That's why it's so important that you cultivate and you build upon who you are first. Because the moment we start adding in all these caveats and all these things that can influence why we're being honest and why we're not being honest and why the beauty in honesty is working, or while the beast in honesty is working or not working, or the beauty of honesty is not working. The more complicated the web gets, the more intricate the web, right? Which means it's kind of hard to know where you started. You can get lost in that web real quick. And not only that, you can get lost in the web of the relationships that you're in. And we have to look at other people as well. We have to say, this person may not see me the way that I think that they should see me because they're going through their own thing. And this person is being completely honest with themselves. They're working on themselves and they see me one way. This person has been completely disingenuous with themselves and they're not working on themselves and they see me a completely different way. The fact of the matter is that no matter what is going on around us, it doesn't matter if we're not building our foundation. We can't just look to the right and the left and say, no matter what's going on the right or left, eventually I'm just going to go in there and hide. We need to build our own structure. You never know when you're going to be on your own. So if you're not healthy and you're confident in who you are alone, you'll never be anything with someone else. But we have to get back to relationships, the core foundation of it. What do you want? What are the outcomes you want from a relationship? And how much honesty do you want coming in towards you from other people? And then the people that are surrounding you right now, the people that are closest in your lives, is their feedback and who they are important to you? And if it's not, why isn't it? Do you find yourself having people who offer you advice and you never take it? Why is that? Do you find yourself making goals that you never complete, that other people see that you don't complete? Do you care? You might say, well, Coach, why should we care about other people? It's not about other people. We've been talking about this the entire time. It's not about other people. It's about what you want from them after you have made your decisions. So if you've made a goal and you haven't even tried to attempt to reach that goal, what right do you have to expect a reaction one way or the other from anyone that's close to you? You can't expect anything. You can't do anything other than say, hey, I gave it my best effort. This was the goal I wanted to reach. I wanted to reach it. I didn't reach it. In my relationships, this was a relationship that I wanted to go this far. I wanted to do this. It didn't make it. What part did I play? It doesn't have to be fair. It doesn't have to be right. But you played a part. How much honesty do you want coming in? What are you giving? Are you asking of others that you cannot ask of yourself? That is one of the biggest, hardest truths that we could ever have. Is the fact that we're asking of other people what we know we don't have the strength to ask ourselves. We base and judge ourselves off other people's accomplishments, their outcomes. We look at where they've been, and the fact of the matter is that when it comes down to us, we don't have a fucking clue what we want to do for ourselves, but it's just easy to just blame other people. I used to be one of those people. I just blame everyone. Hey, this person had this, and he had this, and he had this, and just ultimately when it comes down to it, it didn't matter. I had stuff that they didn't have. I had opportunities they didn't have. I didn't take advantage of them. They took advantage of certain opportunities. And when it comes to relationships, when you're brutally honest about who you are and what you want to do in life and what outcomes you expect, and you keep it that simple, I call it keeping it core value simple. When you keep your core value simple, any relationship is really going to be super easy. The person's either going to want to deal with you or they're not. They're either going to align with you or they're not. Keep it core value simple. Be brutally honest with yourself and you see how easy it is for others to interact with you. There's nothing for them to criticize. There's nothing for them to motivate. You're doing it all yourself. That doesn't mean they're not going to do it. It just means they know they don't have to. And they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to motivate you, and they shouldn't have to tear you down for you to see something about yourself that you are seeing every single day. Of course, we have blind spots. That's where the beast of honesty comes in. The beast of honesty is when somebody tells you something that hits you from left field, like you had no idea. What? I know I went through this. When people started telling me I was fat, I was in complete denial that I was fat. But I was. Beast of honesty. The beauty in it was that they were trying to help me. They were trying to help me. It was up to me. That these people, if they really care about you, they're going to give you the beast of honesty. Because it's raw and it's real and they care about you. If they didn't care about you, they wouldn't even say anything. Most people ignore what they don't care about. If you think about it, when you look around, most people ignore what they don't care about. So if somebody cares enough about you to say, I'm going to tell you something, it's going to fucking hurt to hear it. Listen up. You should listen to them. Now, take it for a grain of salt. If there is someone who's telling you that and they are a complete disaster, you have nothing to worry about, right? What's the problem? These people are talking out of their ass. But when it's coming from somebody you respect, someone you align with, someone you're in a relationship with that you know you want to cultivate and grow that relationship with, better listen up. It's not a joke. It's not a game. It's never going to be something that is taboo for you to hear honesty from other people. But you can do yourself a solid. Evaluate, reevaluate, and evaluate again who you really are. You keep that going, and everything that you do will always have a basis and a foundation that will always lead you back to the beauty and honesty about who you are, about all the things that are good about you, bad and ugly about you. The beauty of being honest with yourself is that you will know. And the same with the beast. The beast of honesty is that the more brutally honest you are about yourself, the fact of the matter is that at that point, after you've done being honest with yourself, you now know. And if you're serious about changing certain aspects of your life, you'll get on the ball. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall.